I don't have a slide set because they told us to put together a talk without slides. You can see how well these people take direction. So when I got an email from SAEM asking me to participate in this session about 3 months ago, I was flattered and said immediately yes without even thinking about it. And then about a month ago when I decided I needed to put something together, I realized I didn't know if I was a teacher or an administrator. So I sent another email, and within 10 minutes they told me I was an administrator. I got immediately depressed because I've always thought of myself as a teacher, and then realized I had just gotten the most important lesson of my life. If you're going to ask someone to do something, flatter them first. No. It has been said that you can predict where someone will be in 5 years if you know two things about them: what they read and who they spend their time with. What they read. We are what we read. What you put into your brain informs your thought processes and directly impacts the decisions that you make, the work you produce, and the interactions you have with other people. When you think of it in that way, that's an immense motivation to think about what we read and how much time we put aside for intentional reading, reading for the purpose. I put down a couple of examples. These are books that I've read that were immensely helpful to me. If you're interested in education, there's one called The ABCs of How We Learn by Daniel Schwartz. Another one called Talk Like TED, How to Give a TED Talk by Carmen Gallo. If you're interested in management, The Art of Team Building and Delegation, Management for Dummies. It's a great book. If you're interested in learning how to deal with difficult situations and difficult people, there are a couple of books, Crucial Conversations and Crucial Confrontations, awesome books by Kelly Patterson. If you just want to learn about academic life in general, regardless of the track that you've picked, there are books on time management by Stephen Covey and David Allen, on leadership by the Johns, John Maxwell and John Wooden, and on work-life balance, wonderful series of books by Laura Vanderkam. We live in an age of information overload. Think yourself, each day, the emails that you get and send out, the tweets, the podcasts you listen to, the endless stream of political information and the internet. It is difficult to find times for intentional, directed reading. And it is said, predicted, that in 2020, there will be 10 times the amount of information produced than there was in 2013. So finding time for intentional reading is going to be more difficult for you than it was for me, but I believe it's worth it. Who we spend our time with. Jim Rohn was a pretty famous entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker back in the latter half of the 20th century. And he once said, each of us is the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Frank Shamrock, fascinating, the only mixed martial arts fighter to hold simultaneous championships in every sports league and to go on to retire undefeated. He said that in order to become great at anything, someone needs 3 things: a plus, a minus, and an equal. Someone better to learn from, someone lesser that they can teach, and someone equal that they can challenge themselves against. The people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, the people in our sphere, are not just our professional and social support system. Our interactions with them set the groundwork for what we think is right and wrong, for what we think is possible, for how we view success in a career. And this is where I think professional organizations can be immensely helpful. If I think of the time I spent on the Residency Review Committee, sitting on committees and boards for ABEM and ASEP and SAEM, sitting on the editorial board for the Rosen textbook, I was able to, over a course of about 30 years, interact with people who knew more than me that I learned from, people who knew less than me at that point in time that I could teach, and importantly, a lot of people with the same experience I had that I could challenge myself against. If there was one, I think, lesson at least as important as most of the rest, it is this. When you go home, think about where you want to be in 5 years, what you're reading, and who you choose to spend your time with. Think about it.